Atticus Finch in Harper Lee's book To Kill a Mockingbird says you never really understand a person until you get inside their skin and move around in it. That's what actors do, is you get inside the skin of another person, the character that you're playing, and you inhabit that person. So you have to, by doing so, by getting into the skin of another person and trying to understand them, you can't help but become liberal. You can't help but become a person who has your heart become more open, because you realize that we're all fallible, that we all make mistakes in our lives, and so you become more forgiving of people and the mistakes that they make in their lives. And like it was Gary Oldman playing Winston Churchill, you try to understand his way of thinking, read his books, read books that have been written about him, look at decisions that he made, and those things tell you something about a man's character, about what he said yes to and what he said no to, what his beliefs were, what his strengths and what his weaknesses were. And you know, we're all human, so you can understand another person's passions, but it also, do you understand another person's willingness to say no to something that is not popular? I will say that when I met my acting teacher, her name was Stella Adler, and the first thing that she said is that if you've come to me for me to teach you how to be a movie star, you should turn around and leave right now. I don't teach that. If I'm lucky, I'll teach you to be a human being. And she had no way of knowing, but that's all I'd ever wanted to be, was a human being, because of a movie that I saw called Little Big Man with Dustin Hoffman. It was the first time that they'd pivoted the camera from white settlers, you know, during the time of the Western expansion. They pivoted the camera to white settlers being attacked by Native Americans, to Native Americans being attacked by white cavalry, you know, and it was barbaric. And we were living in Utah at the time, and I was going to school with a lot of Navajo Indians, and I felt so ashamed of the color of my skin for being a part of that history, you know, that lineage. I don't know that anybody in my family was ever, you know, a murderer of Native Americans, but I felt I had all that burden of white man's guilt, and but in the film, the Native Americans called themselves human beings, and so that's all I ever wanted to be, was a human being. I wanted that. So when I came into that class and she said, if I'm lucky, I'll teach you to be a human being, she had no idea what that meant to me. And I started crying, and she accepted me as a student in her school. And yeah, that was the beginning of my acting career. I'm the youngest of 7 children. As I say, born in California. We bounced around because the drive-in theaters was, at that moment in time, we're starting to go out of business because because VHS tapes and cable television, people just stopped going to the drive-ins, and the land was worth more than the drive-ins, so they started going out of business. And we moved about every year and a half to a new drive-in, and then we lived there for a little while, and the economy kind of collapsed around the drive-in business, and we moved to someplace else. So I lived in about 11 different homes growing up.